Welcome back to the Amazon's podcast for the second hour. My guest really needs no introduction. If you follow women's physique division, which I starting following it around 2016, and she was one of my favorites, known as Little Monstar. And the biggest thing about it, because she was so small, but she held her own, one time number 2 in the world. And thank you so much for joining me, Dani. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here. And that was a really cool intro. I was like,
oh, of course, because I mean,
legit.
I remember, and it's hard to believe when you look at this whole list back in that time. Juliana Malakari, who's the champion, Brooke Walker, Heather Grace, Sharonica Hinton, of course, Autumn Swanson, Heather Dees, Daniele Castillo. I mean, it's amazing. And the fact that you would just go out there and just kick butt and hold your own, and you got the nickname Little Monstar, and I was like, man, she could win this thing. And so it was amazing to watch. Sad that you left, but I was always a big fan. So when I reached out to you, I said, well, I'm just going to see if I can get her to come on.
Yeah.
And so thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Not at all. It's the pleasure's all mine. Like I said, if anybody knows anything about the women's physique division, they would know. And the transition that's gone on now, back in your time, it was like they didn't want you to be totally shredded as much. They didn't, specifically non-striated glutes. And you look at it now, it's like it's gone 180. But have you kept up with the sport? Have you looked in on it, or?
I haven't really, for a couple different reasons. It's, I think at first it was really hard for me to keep up with. I was like really torn and kind of wanted to be on stage, and it was like difficult for me to keep up with, because I was conflicted over leaving or staying. Did I make the right decision? And I wanted to be up there. And sometimes I see stuff on Instagram and I see who's there now, or I talk to people like yourself and they kind of update me and let me know. But I still think it's beautiful, and people are still doing well and impacting all the people that are, following them. And so I think the soul is still there, the intention and the love for the sport is still there. And for me, I think that's the most important thing that I was hoping that would continue on is the true love for it.
Right. And if anyone go out and not subscribe to your YouTube channel, you did a episode where you talked about why you quit bodybuilding and why you left. And looking at it, it's like, it's sort of sad, but a lot of truth to it. So I would urge everyone to go out, not only just look at the episode, but also subscribe to your channel so you can see more of it for yourself. But do you see, and you talked about a lot of things, good, bad, and indifferent, but do you see yourself ever wanting to come back? Is the itch still there?
Not really, not anymore, just because I'm so into what I'm doing now, and I'm really living, what I think is a life of like service to my tribe and my community. And bodybuilding takes up so much time. It's a full-time job and then some. You dream about it. So it's like, all hours of the day go into creating this physique on stage. And what I miss about it is being like really good at something. It's like after devoting like a decade of my life to it, you have this sort of like feeling of mastery, and what you're getting up to do every morning, and what's going on, and you're sort of regimented in a way too. So like you don't have many decisions to make, and it's just a matter of like work and love and effort. So I kind of miss that, and I miss being at the top of something. But I don't see myself devoting that much time to the gym anymore, because not that I don't care, I don't want to say that, but my mind is not focused purely on my body anymore. And before it was, and that served so much in my life. It taught me so much. But now my focus and my priorities are just a little bit different. And fitness is kind of coming back around. I'm a yoga teacher now, and I do sound, but just recently I started teaching sculpt. And which is like yoga plus weights, which I never thought I would do because I was like, it's not working out and it's not yoga, and I couldn't find like the happy medium, but I started teaching it, and I'm teaching people how to do like proper bicep curls and proper shoulder presses and come all these different ways that you can lift. And I forgot how much I knew about lifting. And I got my master's in exercise physiology too. So like
Right.
it's cool to be able to kind of meld my two worlds. It took me 7 years. Like we were saying,
Mhm.
I'm like an old fogey now as far as the sports are concerned.
Yeah.
But it's cool to be able to bring that in and inspire people and, tell them like, "Hey, this is what I did and what feels like a past life." As I was on the Olympia stage and people are like, "What? You were a bodybuilder?" Because my body
Yeah.
just looks so different now, but there's still some muscle there. I notice if I start doing push-ups or even look at a weight, my muscles start to kind of fill out again, like I get that they're
Uh-huh.
like, "Will lift me."
When you think about it overall, do you miss, if anything? And you talk about the camaraderie and being on the biggest stage that is the Olympia, being number 2 in the world,
Oh,
when you left the sport. I mean, what is it about that you miss, if anything? No chance of you coming back, but you can tell it is still there because you can still see the fire just in your voice and listening to you.
yeah, I think what I miss the most is my tribe, my people, and I don't
Yeah.
really like the word fan because then it feels
Mhm.
like I'm up here and they're down here. I don't like that. I miss my tribe and the people that would message me and comment on my videos and come see me at shows, and like
Right.
that's what I miss the most. And I think that's what I mean when I say being really good at something. It's like you had people around you supporting you and cheering you on. And yeah, I miss my tribe. And I still have all my hoodies that, people signed when they would come meet me at the Olympia and at the Arnold, and, I still have them. They're kind of in my basement now with all my trophies. I can't get rid of them. I
Right.
still feel their energy, but
Right.
I miss that.
And so you turned on and went another way. You still in exercise science, if you will. You got your master's and everything. Now you're doing yoga and sculpting. Uh, and it's just as fulfilling, if not more, I would guess, right?
Yeah, it is. Like, I feel like I'm really serving. I didn't okay, I'm when I teach yoga, it's for me and it's also for them, like the people who come to see me for class, and it's really fun to orchestrate energy between movement and music and a theme or something like that. So, it's fun for me to be, like, in person serving, and what I'm realizing now more than before was that, like, although I was serving myself, I wanted to be the best in the world. Because I was able to put out content, I actually was serving people who were watching me. And I remember people saying, "Oh, I got through my cardio today because of your video." And like that, like
Right.
really touches me. So yeah, I'm still kind of in the fitness world. My classes are definitely hard. They're definitely challenging. And I think that's why
Right.
people come back because it's very spirited. It's like they call it a ceremony, a yoga ceremony.
Mhm.
Because we work hard, we break a sweat. It's usually hot in the room. And, but then at the end, I have like the yoga mantras, or I play some of my instruments, or I do something to like bring them into like a spiritual world.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's my bait and switch with yoga is a good workout, a good sweat, and then I hit them with the mantras and the spirit.
But a lot of it is big time lifestyle clients, yes?
Lifestyle
Because it is
client.
a lifestyle, because yoga helps you to focus and concentrate. And a lot of football players, I know that would you always use it as part of it. When it first came out, everybody said, "Oh, you look stupid doing yoga." But then when they saw how it impacted them, it was amazing. One of the ones was Jerry Rice used it, and we all
Amazing.
know how big he was as a football player and a Hall of Famer, and how many Super Bowls. But yeah, everybody, anything that came off across as dance or in yoga, there was different people seemed to mock it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I used to mock it. Are you kidding me? I
Yeah,
was like, "Yoga?" I was like, "Come on."
yeah,
And I remember going to my first yoga class, and I thought I was so strong, right? Like, I had a core, I had a six pack. I'm like, "Well, I'm a bodybuilder."
yeah,
But then I got a
yeah,
yoga and was in a pose sideways, and I was getting my ass kicked, handed to me. I was like, "Wow, I thought I was so strong." No, I just look strong.
yeah.
Um, And what people don't realize about yoga or stretching in general is that it actually helps you lift better. It helps you move better because when we're working out, our muscles are contracting, right? Like that's what we're doing. We're
Right.
lengthening, contract. But when you stretch and do yoga, you're actually able to lengthen the muscle. And the more you can lengthen a muscle, the more you can contract it, the more you build and the more you sculpt. So it's something that people sort of maybe used to toss to the side more than they do now, but
Right.
it's something that's totally helpful. And even like if you think about the posing in women's physique, I remember being so tight I could barely get my body sideways.
Yeah. Everybody would start getting the shakes sometimes on stage.
Yeah, because their muscles are so tight. They're like fighting their
Right.
spine and all the things. So yoga is actually super helpful. And I recommend it for anybody who is, still in the sport or out of the sport. And, it's a mind, body, spirit thing. And that is what got me hooked in the first place. Cause that's what I missed from bodybuilding was that my body was being challenged physically. Mentally,
Mhm.
it was always, get one more rep or being on the stepper, closing my eyes and like mentally going through my routine or something. And then spiritually, it was like for me, I feel like my secret weapon was I had the universe. I was like noticing all the numbers and I was sort of in this
Mhm.
really spiritual state. So bodybuilding for me was mind, body, spirit. And I remember my first yoga class that was hot yoga. It was super hot, like 100 degrees. And it was hard and it was athletic. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh my goodness, that for me was mind, body, spirit. I found something again that could hit the three pillars. And
Mhm.
yeah, because like, group fitness, I think I had tried some group fitness classes and it was okay, but it wasn't deep, like martial art enough. Bodybuilding to
Mhm.
me was a martial art. And then I found yoga, and yoga is very much like that. And it's a personal practice. Uh,
Mhm.
so yeah.
When you look at as far as you mentioned mind, body, and spirit, would you
Mm.
say yoga is more mental? Because as the mind goes, the body goes. You know.
Hmm. That's an interesting question. I think
Mhm.
it's both at the same time
Or they
because
like to say mind over matter. You know, and
yeah,
so.
I just saw this meme on Instagram actually, and somebody said, "Oh, I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible."
Mhm.
And the teacher said, "In your body or your mind?"
Mm.
And then the next line was, "And now they're coming to class."
Well, there you go.
Yeah, because it's both.
Uh,
It's as you open up your body and create space in your body, your mind follows suit and vice versa. I think they're always like a sort of in this relationship. Whereas if you start to open your mind, your body also starts to open. And you only know that when you
mhm.
practice it. You can't knock it until you try it because there's totally something to that.
Right. And one of the things looking at why you left the sport of bodybuilding
Yeah.
is you talked about the sponsorships and give me some of the good, the bad, and the ugly because there was a lot of great involved. But
Mm.
your focus, one of the things you said you were focused on just competing. You didn't really care whether you had a sponsor or not, and then how tiring it was to have sponsors to make the posts and stuff. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Definitely. Yeah, and I say this, and this doesn't pertain to everybody out there because some people
Right,
wanna compete because they wanna be in the magazines and they wanna be sponsored by the top brands, and
right,
so I say this with so much gratitude for the opportunity to be a sponsored athlete. So I don't want to, discredit that at all or poo-poo it because,
hmm,
really it was a blessing and an opportunity that not many people get.
right,
But I always say, like, I was not a good sponsored athlete because I never wanted that. I really didn't care. I didn't do bodybuilding to be famous or to be
hmm,
signed. I did it because I loved it and I believed I could be the best and I wanted to be the best. And then, like, I wanted to make a post for myself on Instagram, let's say, and I felt guilty about not making a post for my sponsors, or they would want me to
hmm,
post for them, post this protein thing, and I'm like, "I'm
right,
not even eating protein right now." Like, so it felt very, like, inauthentic in some ways, although I believed in the product. Sometimes I wasn't actually using the product I was being asked to post about. I didn't even really use that many supplements to begin with, so it was, like,
right,
really and it was exhausting. Like, I remember driving to Miami to film a workout video for a company, and I was exhausted. I think I was, like, 3 weeks out from the Olympia. All I
Mm,
wanna do is be tired and at home, no makeup on. I just wanna be sweaty because I gotta go back to the gym in 2 hours anyway. So, like,
right,
having to get ready and put on, the camera sort of face and be, like, really outgoing,
right,
it got exhausting, and I was like, "Man, I just wanna compete." But then the other side of that is I was getting a little bit of money, nowhere near what the guys
mhm,
were getting, I will say,
right.
but I
Yeah,
was
still not. No.
still not, and that never probably will be, because it's like,
Yeah,
the guys are what draw. I get it, it's a business. But then I would stand at a booth after the show and people would have a spot to come see me. They would know,
mm,
okay, if Danny's sponsored by this, she's gonna be at this booth, and then there'd be people waiting to come and meet me
right.
and sign my hoodie. So there are definitely pros and cons to it, but for me, the exhausting part and the part that kind of tarnished my love was the industry,
Mm,
the companies, it's like, it's not that wasn't for me.
I got you.
Yeah.
What made you so competitive? Because you were small. No one really took you seriously in the beginning, but yet you were up there holding your own and kicking a lot of people's butt. I mean, what gave you that competitive edge?
Oh, man, I think my love for the sport. I really think that that was it, and, like, when I started to tap into the universe
Right,
and into this sort of Jedi mindset that I sort of coined, it was just an example of it was, like, I would hear so many people, including myself, say, "I hate cardio. I hate dieting," like, complaining, complaining,
right,
complaining. "I'm just doing
right.
this so I can get on stage and be this shredded version of myself." And somewhere along the line, I started to go, "Oh, no, I actually love to do cardio because I love
Yeah,
bodybuilding, and I
yeah,
love to prep my food because I love this." So now I wasn't just competing and doing the things to get me to the place I loved, which was on stage, but I was loving the process the whole way through. And I really think that's what made my 45 minutes on the stepper different than somebody else's 45 minutes, was I was doing
uh-huh,
it with love.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem. You don't. There's no way you can win if you get it for the wrong reason. Because how bad do you want it? Especially now with the Olympia, I think coming up on almost 12 days away.
Oh, wow.
Now you find out who really wants it and who's just glad to be there. But all the work ethic that goes into it. And when
Mhm.
you mentioned passion, and now that you turned that around into your yoga, and you're taking on clients and everything, how do people view you? Because I would assume there's still not a lot of people that remember the little monster that was. But I mean, how are you viewed now as Dani Reardon, the yoga instructor?
Mm. I don't even know. I don't know how I'm viewed.
Yeah. And not that you would care, but I mean, it's different because you're still recognizable as like, okay, that's her. Uh, and I really think it's amazing that you made the transition
Mm,
and still have the peace for something new now that you love, but
yeah.
without still not loving women's bodybuilding, women's physique division.
Mm. I think, people on Instagram who knew me as Little Monster,
Yeah,
they sometimes they say, "Make it a comeback," or like that, they want me to come
I
back just
wish. Yeah, I'm one of them. I'm one.
and I think about it too. If I had the fire again, I would do it.
Yeah,
And I've been plant-based for 7 years now, so part of
right,
my drive to do it is like, "Hey, you don't have to necessarily eat animals to do this." So I would do it for,
right.
like, the vegans, for the animals.
There you go.
So that would be like, so that has pulled at me for quite some time.
Yeah,
Um, and what I know now about spirit and what I know now about energy is so leaps and bounds more than what I thought I knew then. And um, so so they say, come back, but also people say, thank you for sharing your journey.
Oh,
And, like, they're like, "We
yes.
love you on stage, but we love you even more now, and thank you for keeping us informed about it." So, some
Mhm.
people love it, and then, of course, you get the trolls that are like, "What did you do to your body? You look so much better
Yeah,
before." Which, I hold space for all of it. I understand all sides of it, and then People
Mhm.
view me now in my yoga studio. They don't
Mhm.
even know, like, I'll say, "Oh, yeah, I was a bodybuilder." Then they'll go look me up, and then they'll come back and they're like,
Oh my god. Yeah.
"I looked you up." I'm like,
Yeah.
"And" they're like, "You were like a bodybuilder." I'm like, "Yeah, like real, like bodybuilding." And they so then
Yeah.
there's a new level of kind of curiosity about my life and where I've been and who I am.
Mhm. But you're successful on all levels, and now that you transition, um, into another lifestyle, you could call it, but
Mm,
another business purview as well, doing yoga, but you
mm.
could be the first vegan women's physique champion to
I
come
thought
back. And because the biggest thing that people have, disclaimer, I think, well, in fact, I know, is like, how can you be vegan and still get the protein and the nutrients to body build? And
yeah.
it's a lot of people out there that's proving people wrong. I know one girl that I met right here in Fayetteville at Gold's Gym, and she was totally vegan and she looked amazing, but she absolutely had no interest in competing. She just liked training and training people and doing her vegan lifestyle, but she was just as ripped as anyone um, that was getting ready to compete, and I thought that was amazing.
Yeah. That is amazing. And, I feel like down and this is just my understanding of it, and I could be totally
Mhm.
wrong, but, amino acids are amino acids, building blocks are
Right,
building blocks, and quinoa, a rice grain thing has all the essential amino acids. So do
right,
beans. And so I think that there's a way to do it if you just go building block for building block without having
right,
to, harm animals. And I think a lot of people don't
right,
realize what they're doing because they just go to the store and buy their chicken and they're so one pointed focus, it's like
right,
whatever I need to do and this is the way that it's always been done, so this is the way that I have to do it too. Um and I just don't subscribe to that
right.
anymore.
Well, I think the biggest argument is a healthier lifestyle because you can't dispute the results, especially when you talk about high blood pressure and diabetics that people struggle with, and where the food is processed and is they, you can't dispute the healthy lifestyle about it because the proof is there.
Yeah, and the mindset just changes around food. What I noticed
Right.
when I went vegan, like, it was so dramatic, like, backstage at the Olympia, I got I was like, "Okay, not coming back," and I threw out all my meat containers, and I had already wanted to
Uh-huh.
go plant-based before this, so I was like, threw them all
Right.
out, and I will tell you, it really helped me with my relationship with food because
Mhm.
I would go really dialed in for the show, and then I would be off the rails. I mean,
Right.
eating whatever and eating so much until I was prepping again. And for maybe it was just I was kind of young. I was 25, doing this at the time. But now I find that I'm a lot more even. I don't have the big extreme swings anymore. My gut
Mhm.
is really healthy, like the fibers there, and I'm still like have some muscles and things like that too. So
You
it's,
got a lot of muscle. Yeah. I mean, the physique is still there, no question.
thank you.
Was it a tough transition though, or did you pretty much just go one complete 180 into the vegan lifestyle? And you said you were planning it over time, but how was the transition? Was it tough? Was it hard?
Uh, the toughest part was like learning, um oh, I'm just reading the comment that popped up. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
The hardest part was unlearning what I have learned. So like a Yoda quote, right? It's like
Uh-huh.
unlearning what I had learned and what was the proper way to eat. And like, I was taught even in school, every 2 hours is what you have to do to build muscle and blah, blah, blah. But then I
Mhm.
started to understand intermittent fasting. And I'm like, oh, maybe you don't have to eat every 2 hours to
Right.
build muscle. So I really had to unwind all of the conditioning that bodybuilding and doing all of those things taught me. And just learning the foods and learning how to still get the protein in, and I don't really like vegetables. I know I didn't,
Mm.
especially at that time. Now I eat a little bit more than I used to, but I don't
Right.
really like vegetables. I'll eat watermelon all day.
Yeah.
Uh, but that was the hardest part for me, I think, is like, well, and my husband had gone vegan like 4 months before that, so I had been cooking for him and I was getting ready for the Olympia. So my coach at the time, AJ, was like, "Dani, can you just wait? Can you just wait till after the show? So I started to cut out red meat and steak
Right,
and even chicken too, because chicken looked like muscle fibers. It was like you could see all the filaments and
right,
um and then it was just like egg whites and ground turkey.
right.
And I just wrote it out with that, which, did pretty well. But I think that my energy started to shift away from bodybuilding before that Olympia.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't know it yet. I didn't want to admit it. It took me so long to say. It took me until like March. So I stopped in September. I stopped competing. It took me until I
2017?
of 2017. Yeah, that was my last
Mhm.
show. It took me until like March to be like, I think I'm done for now. I like
Wow.
couldn't say that I couldn't like totally voice it because I was under the impression that I would be on that stage until I was 80 years old. I was like,
Yeah.
I am going to be the oldest bodybuilder. I love this so much. And I don't know if this is okay to say on here, but I did a mushroom
Sure.
ceremony. I did like psilocybin I got into. And then
Uh-huh.
I remember asking myself, what do you actually want? Not what your sponsors want, not what your
Right.
coaches want, not what your fans want. What do you want? And I was like, I don't want to eat meat. I
Yeah.
don't want to be sponsored. And that's where it started. And then I quit the sponsor I had and I was like, God, that felt so good. I was
Mhm.
free. And then I started to do more things that led me to more freedom. And yeah, so it was a slow transition. And then I remember even like learning to like my body without all the muscle because I had been given
Right.
all this external validation for so long about how I looked. And like nobody on the
Right.
Olympia, they never ask you, would you get your degree in? Do you have a degree? Are you like a
No.
good human? Nobody cared about who you were other than how striated is your tricep
Yeah. Yeah.
or your glutes. So I started to want to explore another side of myself. I'm like, I am not going to be a one trick pony. I
Right.
am not going to be a bodybuilder and then that's all I'm going to do. So I'm kind of building now this new mountain I'm on is yoga, yes, but even more so sound.
Right.
I love sound. I do sound journeys. I call them sound ceremonies.
Mhm.
And I am learning instruments. And so for me, it's like the same kind of climb. It's so inspiring because my whole life was never a musician. I was more of an athlete in school than I ever did band or anything like that. And now I play the flute. I have like 11 flutes. I have
Wow.
like
Okay.
harmoniums. I'm singing, I'm chanting. I have a drum. Like I am doing all kinds of things and
So you
I'm
going full on woodwinds, as they
full
would say.
on woodwinds and like all kinds of like my whole room up here is actually basically like a music
Right.
studio now. Um, Gong, sound therapy, like whatever I can get my hands on to play, I will. My next investment is a didgeridoo because
Right.
I can't wait to do that. But what I see is like this climb, and I'm like 2 years in now, and I'm like, I know what happens 10 years with my mind focused on something. So what I see now is like, okay, I remember my second year in bodybuilding. I was still kind of chubby on stage. I wasn't fully
Mhm.
getting it right, but after 7 years, I was at the Olympia. 3 more years, I was like this thing. So I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'm 2 years in and I'm already here. I
Right.
wonder what another 5 is gonna do." Like, I wanna be like
Right.
a DJ on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But I
sound
mean, it's amazing. I mean, but there's no chance you could come back. You could come back as a vegan, and there are sponsors out there. I mean, you got the Impossible Burger. I can see that whole commercial laid out.
Yeah.
Um, but I think there's a more of a, I don't want to call it a popularity, but more of a following to everybody's wising up to say, hey, you can't eat all this meat. You need to go vegan or at least some form of plant based.
Mhm.
To pull a lot more meat out of your diet, um, because with all the way it's processed and everything, it's not just the point of eating meat per se, but is it really safe to eat? You always look up and here comes another bacteria, and so that's sort of fearful as well. But I guess my whole question leading up to this is, are you happy now?
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I'm very happy. And,
Good for you.
I was happy then.
Right.
I loved it. Um, I was also young and kind of off the rails, I'm
Yeah.
intense. I'm little, but I'm
Yeah.
intense, so when I feel stuff, I really feel it. If I'm off the rails, I am way off the rails. I mean,
Yeah.
or if I'm dialed in, I'm way dialed in, a and but I'm really happy now and I'm content,
Right.
although there's still confusion. Sometimes I still don't know exactly where I'm headed,
Right.
but the piece of advice I would give people then and now, and I even give
Mhm.
myself, is to follow the good feeling. What
Right.
feels good to me is yoga, sound, and ceremony, plant medicine ceremonies, and that's some 3 things in my life that I am so passionate about. So I don't know where I'm gonna go with that yet, but I'm good where I'm at for now.
Well, it's been great to follow you, and we'll continue to follow you,
Thank you.
both to know and remember you as Little Monstar, and even now. So yeah, so keep it going, and thanks for talking to me. I really appreciate you for coming on. But
Yeah.
what do you got coming up next? What are your goals? Would you say? Um, do you
Mm.
have an end state, or are you just going to follow it wherever it leads you?
Well,
Just your journey,
um,
I guess.
yeah, goals, that's a good I've been actually sitting with that lately and asking myself, "What do I want?" Because I am doing, I'm doing sound now, and I go around to different yoga studios. I've done, like,
Right.
over 30 events in the last year, so that's, like, 2 or 3 a month. My
Right.
goal we have this my goal with sound is we have this place on Cape Cod here called the Melody Tent, and
Hmm.
I don't know how many people it fits. It's not a huge venue, but I would love to play at the Melody Tent and be able to sing and use my voice and use my drum and activate the energy and also help people feel better. And so, like, again, I still feel called to the stage, a stage. I
Yeah.
could
Just a
almost
different stage. Yeah.
just a different stage, but I think I'm there's something that calls me to that position in life. And even when I teach yoga, I'm sort of on a stage now, and I am managing a yoga studio, which is such a beautiful blessing for me.
Hmm.
And so that feels good right now as far as, like, yoga is concerned, but sound, I have big goals. And also, I'm assisting with a couple of retreats to Peru this coming up year. So one of them will
Wow.
include yeah, this will be my 3rd time back. So Peru is
Hmm.
something that is super near and dear to my heart. And, I'm leading one with my yoga studio that I work for, so we'll be going in March. So if anybody out there is interested in Peru, come on down.
Yeah.
In July, I'm helping my teacher, who taught me about sound and plants and yoga and things. We're doing another retreat in July. So this will be
Hmm.
my 3rd year back with him. And with that one, we are going to meet with his teacher, our teacher, Miguel, and we're going to
Hmm.
work with plant medicine there with not ayahuasca, but wachuma. Um, and I'm a part of this foundation called the Wachuma Foundation. And I don't know if anybody knows much about that plant medicine, but it's
Hmm.
cactus. It's similar to peyote with the alkaloids that are active there, but Wachuma is the Peruvian plant medicine. And
Right.
yeah, so I'm part of a foundation. We're raising money to create a sanctuary in Peru so we can keep the cactus thriving and sustaining and in the hands of the right people.
Right.
So
So a
that's
lot of what I heard about the peyote is everybody talks about different trip. I don't know if it's necessarily negative, but it's just like they were like an out of body experience. So I mean, is that pretty much true, or what do you?
well, yeah, I would say it's inner and outer for the
Right.
peyote. Peyote itself, I think, is a little bit more heavy. You want to be like kind of sitting down and very internal, working with the medicine that way, or you're sitting around a
Right.
circle if you're doing it like traditionally. I think it's like circle. Um, but with Wachuma, it's you want to kind of hike and you want to move with it, and they also call Wachuma San Pedro or Saint Peter,
Okay.
named
Okay.
after the guy who stands at the gates of heaven.
Yeah.
Because what the Spanish conquistadors figured out is that
Mm.
this medicine leads you to the gates of heaven inside and outside of yourself. So it has this feeling of like expansion and divinity. And you feel your own divinity and you see it in everything. And, it's so different than ayahuasca. People talk about ayahuasca a lot, and
Right.
it's not so dark and jungly and sort of like purgy. I mean, you still purge a little bit and throw up, but
Right.
it's not that. It's much more heart opening and um yeah, it's very yeah. It's my favorite.
Really?
I love it so much.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna let you out of here on this one. What would be your advice to competitors now? And what's advice to your fans that people want to, how they want to follow you and everything, keep following you and enjoying your journey as myself, a big fan. But what is your advice to women's physique competitors?
Mm,
Those starting out, those that are on their journey, those in the
mm,
Olympia that because you've been there, you've done that.
yeah.
And so what would you tell them?
Um, okay, I have a couple things to say.
Okay, great.
The first thing is be authentic
Mm,
to yourself at all times. Choose the music to post to that's authentic to you, not
mm,
what you think the crowd is gonna like. Choose something that makes you cry, that gives you goosebumps. That's how you know it's yours. Wear the suit that is authentic to you. Wear your hairstyle. Post the things. Like don't lose yourself in the sport. So the first thing is authenticity. The second thing is keep, keep your three pillars, mind, body, and spirit, active. Keep them fed, not just the body. The body's very important, but so is the mindset. What are you saying to yourself? How are you pushing yourself through things? What is your intention for bodybuilding, for this workout, for this conversation with this sponsor or this fan? Like
mm,
keep your intention and your mental health also fed, and also your spiritual health. Like that can be your superpower. Everybody can do bicep curls, everybody can do squats, and everybody can do, a pose on stage, but your
mhm,
spirit, your energy is what the crowd and what the judges and what you are going to feel. And so I think it's really important to tap into a spiritual connection, whatever that means to you. It could be Jesus, it could be
mm,
Buddha, it could be the universe, it could be the laws, like the chakras, like whatever it is, make sure you don't forget about your spirit and your mind. And my third thing is, which I kind of mentioned already, is to follow the
mm,
good feeling. Um, Even if the good feeling means leaving the sport.
mm.
Yeah, sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow
Yeah,
because there's so much fear around that. Like, I'm afraid, who am I going to be without bodybuilding? What are people going to think of me if I'm not the girl that's in the gym that does competitions, if I don't have this certain identity anymore? If
right.
it doesn't feel good, if you don't pop out of bed to do cardio or to get on stage, if the good feeling is elsewhere, my advice to you is to be brave and to follow it because it's there for a reason. Um, and I guess I do have one more thing is about staying in the belief, like believe in yourself. If you're still in the sport, if you're new to the sport, there's a reason why this vision to be on stage is yours. And it's yours because there's something living inside you that says, that knows that you can do it. It's just a matter of helping your mind believe it. And even if you don't make it to the Olympia, even if you don't make it to nationals, the
Mm,
vision is there because there's lessons for your soul to learn along the way. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be number one in the world. Very few people get that spot, or even
mhm,
get to the Olympia stage. So let your journey not be about believing in that solely, but believing that you're in the sport for a certain reason and for a certain lesson. Um, there's so much more to bodybuilding than just the workouts and the food and the competition. It is my biggest teacher, and it had nothing to do with quarter turns. I mean, sure, that was part of it, but it had more to do with believing in myself, trusting in a process, following the good feeling, following my intuition to stay with this coach or go to that coach or do this show or do that show. It had more to do with me learning about my authenticity and like learning how to control my mind and have
right.
that connect to my body and connect to spirit. I mean, there's so much in bodybuilding that has nothing to do with the stage. And my advice to you is to get curious and to figure that out because there's so much waiting for you.
Thank you, Dani. I really
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on. Uh, Great advice. Like I said, I've been a fan for a while, and yeah, you are missed, but glad you see you in this light as well. So I appreciate you coming on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a beautiful opportunity. Anytime, please let me
Oh,
know.
definitely going to talk to you more in the future to learn. And as you can tell, I'm on the outside looking in, the Wasatska or the peyote. I'm like, oh, okay. To me, it's like, oh, well, all I know is that's you're high. But
I mean, that's
I
part
mean, a lot of people learn about that, from watching different shows or comedies or movies, but they don't actually know what the real deal is. So thanks for educating me as well. So I appreciate you.
anytime, anytime.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Okay. Hi, thank you. Thank you all.
Dani Reardon, Little Monstar, one of my big fan of hers in all the women's physique division that was in 2017. It's hard to believe to say that a lot of them are moved on. But then you got those that are still there, and Autumn Swanson and Sharonica Hinton on her fifth Olympia. Uh, Brooke Walker. Hope to see her back in 2025. So that was my love for the division and how I got educated behind it to knowing who she was. So when I saw her, I'm so thankful that she came on. Coming up tomorrow night at 8 p.m., you want to tune in because I'll have number 2 in the world, Jessica Reyes Padilla. She's on the cover of the January cover of Amazon's fitness magazine. So make sure you guys tune in then. Until then, always remember that not everybody's going to be for you, but that doesn't mean that everybody's against you. But it does mean everybody is watching. So give them a show. We'll see you tomorrow night.